So a couple months ago, when we got the FMS Jimny in for review, I thought there was no way we'd ever see a more detailed ready to run than this, but I was wrong. Check out what we got on the bench here. It's the Kubelwagen, that thing. So here's the 1/12 scale Type 82 Kübelwagen. This is from ROCHobby, and it's a completely ready to run kit, and you're going to be blown away with the amount of detail on this kit. Let's just say it has cloth seats with foam underneath it. It's absolutely incredible. There's so much more to talk about, but first up, it comes out of the box completely detailed just as you see it. This is going to be a lot of fun for the scale modelers that just love, I guess, vintage military vehicles. I am not a military buff, so I'm probably gonna mess up a lot of terms throughout this. However, I absolutely love detailed scale RC models. Now let's start off by talking about how it comes out of the box, and it actually comes in a nice styrofoam packaging. So when you pop the box open, it's nicely nestled into the carrier so that nothing happens to it. And it actually stores the radio system and tools as well, so nothing happens to it. You can keep everything all in one box if you're storing it. But I don't know why you would store it, because this is perfect for the shelf when it is not in use. I think it would grab a lot of people's attention that are visiting your workshop or house or whatever. Just a great looking car. Now this is 4-wheel drive. It has some really unique suspension on here, unique drive line. I tried to take as much as I could apart to show you, but this is a pretty intricate model. And now let's get into some of these details that I'm talking about. So first up, the windshield actually folds down, and it comes folded down. It actually clips into these little tabs on the hood here. And as you can see, there's these little hooks that just kind of latch into place on the side. Then you actually fold up the mirrors, and I'm gonna get right into these mirrors because they're on metal posts. These are actual metal. Usually we just see plastic, but they have metal here with these nice mirrors that actually have a nice mirrored chrome lens behind them as well. I mean, we're talking some serious detail on this kit. The hood here, this is a full spare. This will actually bolt onto the hubs if for some reason you ever wanted to swap out a wheel. No cheaping out on this model. So the body here, this is modeled after a German military vehicle built by Volkswagen. You can do the whole Wikipedia thing if you want to learn more about the details on it. Again, I am not a history buff, but from what I see, ROCHobby really nailed it on the scale replica of this, all the way down to the lines, the hinges, the doors, all of the accessories that go on the outside, the markings. We've got markings printed over here on the side, just really well done, just perfectly placed. There's no signs of fading through the printing or anything like that. And I want to flip it over really quick because even the underside of this model is done up as well. One of the big features of the real car is the bottom had this nice flat underbelly to it so it could go over snow and stuff when following tanks and other off-road vehicles, from what I gather. But they just really studied the real car and made this as scale as possible. Love the fenders on here. We've got lights in the front on the fenders, and we've got LED lights inside these light buckets. Nice lenses on the front. This piece right here, again, forgive me for my lack of knowledge, but whatever it is, it also has an LED light in there. And let me spin it around to the back so you can see the back side of this thing. Check out all the detail out back as well. Really neat, small vintage lights out back, orange and red lenses on the inside of that. Got the license plate light over here, little latch molded in. And I'm guessing this is some sort of bumper bar. And this is actually a piece of steel right here, not just plastic, steel that is nicely glued into these little brackets on the side. And even the taillights. Look at the taillights here. We've got little metal brackets to hold these lights on. How cool is that? They could have just went plastic with it, but they didn't. And you know what? Why don't I just show you really quick? Here are the hinges for the motor cover out back. These are metal hinges. And then up top here for the storage compartment, also metal hinges. Over here on the doors, metal hinges. The front bumper bar, I guess, again, is also metal. And right behind it is a well-printed license plate. And now I'm gonna get into the stuff that's just gonna blow you away. And that's here in the interior. So check out these seats. Look at that. These are actual cloth seats. And if you push down on it, you could actually feel the foam. And they've got divots in here. There's texture to it. That is absolutely incredible. The front seats, and I guess going back to what I read up on it, the Kubelwagen is something about bucket seats in a vehicle, and I guess that's a major detail, and so I guess that's why ROCHobby really put some time into it. But I just think that is so awesome. And these seats actually fold down. There we go, check that out. And I might as well show you the trunk area here. So this pops up. And I don't know, I guess if you wanted to store an extra battery in there, you could go do that. Or maybe if you are going to do some sort of military replica video or something, you could throw some accessories in there. But look down at the floorboards. So we've got, I guess that's supposed to be wood flooring, and they've done that in a tan type of plastic. Looks really cool. It's got a wood texture to it. That's why I say it's a wood styling. And then check out the dashboard. From the pictures I saw of the real Kübelwagen, the dashboard looks exactly the same. We've got the speedometer in the center here, the steering wheel, and then some extra detail pieces like the bar here, these little buttons and stuff like that. But if you look really close, you'll see that this button right back here is a different color. And that's because that's actually your on-off switch for the speed controller. So you're not gonna see it anywhere else. It is right there where it should be to start the vehicle. Now, if you got some large meat mitts, you might not be able to get your finger down in there, so you might have to push it with an Allen wrench or something like that. But I'm just able to squeeze my pinky finger in there and turn the vehicle on. I still think that is super cool. All right, let's move on to the doors now, because like the FMS Jimny, it's got opening doors. And if you look really closely here, we've got metal casings around the door handle. And that's because if you push down on this door handle, it'll actually open up the door. Yes, how cool is that? And then just snaps back. Actually, you got to turn the door handle down to get it back in place. This little metal bar right here slides in and out when you push down the door handle. And that's the case on all 4 doors on this. So all 4 doors open up. So cool. But it's not over yet. We've got more stuff to check out in the rear. And if you come down to the bottom here, let me just get down so you can see this. You can see the mufflers out back. And if I tilt this up a little bit more, you can see the bottom of the air-cooled engine. How awesome. Now, you want to see the engine? Yes, they have one in there. Check that out. Look at all the detail in that motor. That is absolutely awesome. Love it. And you might think, hey, it's just a static motor. Very cool. No. The fan belt here actually turns when you're driving. So as soon as you apply power, the drivetrain drives this belt, and you can actually see the fan turn inside the housing there. That is so cool. Distributor caps, some hoses. You can see some of the wires back here, but ROCHobby, they go the extra mile and they wrap all the wires that can be seen in some wire loom. So, you're really getting a lot for your money out of this kit. Really cool stuff going on. All right, now let me show you what's under the hood of this thing, and it snaps tightly in place. So there we go. Pop this thing up and it actually slides out. You got to rock it a little bit. It's actually taped down because there's that LED light that I was telling you about before. But inside here are all of the electronics. Now, when I got this, the battery was actually inside. It was slid up in this area here, but it looks like it fits in here. And I've actually tried to put it in here, and it does. You just kind of have to slide the wires down. It's a little bit of a pain, and maybe that's why they put it over here, just so it's easier for you to access. But here you can see the speed controller system, and this is the receiver as well, the LED light controller, and then right behind it is the steering servo. So everything is nicely tucked away, yet you can still access it if you need to. Now I'm gonna gently flip this thing over so we could talk about some of the suspension and the drivetrain in here. So we'll start off with the drivetrain. It is 4-wheel drive, and from what I could tell, The transmission is back here, looks very scale once you pull off the bottom skid plate, and behind it is obviously the motor, but your main transmission is in this area back here. And then we've got CV universals that go down to these portal style axle hubs. Check that out. That looks really cool, and it's a open differential, so if you spin it, it's just an open diff. And since this is probably just going to go around on dirt trails, that's totally fine. But we've got some sort of drive shaft that goes in the center. I wasn't able to open it up. There's a lot of screws. Wasn't quite able to figure out how to take it apart, but we've got some sort of center shaft that goes down to a front differential case. And as you can see in the front, we don't have any portal style hub in the front. It's just a CV universal axle that goes right down to the wheel hub there. And that means there's probably some sort of reduction somewhere. I think it's pretty cool that they took the time to figure out the gear reduction or whatever gear ratio needs to be changed so that the front drives at the same pace as the rear wheels. And I did go put a piece of tape on the tires just to make sure that everything was spinning at the same time in the same rotation, and it was. So even though we've got a reduction here, it's still equal drive to all four wheels. And up front, there is a gear differential on the inside as well. Again, kind of hard to take this apart. Usually I try my best to get it apart for you guys. But this one was rather difficult. Now we've got trailing arm suspension up front. Check out how cool that is. Really nice looking setup. Little tiny shocks up front. They don't really do anything other than look good. Your damping is taken place by a torsion spring. There's a little torsion spring on the inside of the arm here, and that's how you get your damping out of the suspension. Same thing in the rear. There is a torsion spring, and we've got these metal trailing arms. Having some light issues today, but as you can see, there's metal trailing arms. Really good looking stuff throughout. I mean, I just keep finding little details that just blow my mind with this thing, and I love the way this RC car looks. Now check out the tires. Very scale looking narrow tire. Bolts right on with 5 screws. Under that center hubcap there is a small retaining nut that holds the hub to the CV drive shaft in there. Full ball bearings, I believe. I'm seeing a large ball bearing out there at the wheel hub, and I thought I saw some bearings out back somewhere. But this vehicle is basically done right. Now there's additional servos in the back as well because there is a 2-speed transmission. I didn't mention that before, probably should have. But while I was going through this, I turned on the radio system and found out that it has a low and high speeds. Now let me go back to the front, kind of jumping around here. I'm sorry, but I'm really excited about this model. The steering assembly, it's got a twin crank steering, and actually one of the cranks is attached to the servo up front that I showed you guys before. And you know, it just has short little stubby tie rods that go out to the steering knuckles. And there's actually a really small piece of wing wire that attaches to the steering column here. So when the wheels turn, the steering wheel turns as well. Again, I mean, these guys just thought of absolutely everything on this kit. And I think that's about it. I think I've covered it all. If I didn't, I'll you know, figure it out towards the end and let you guys know. But let me show you what else comes in the kit. I have everything laid out over here. Pretty simple stuff. We've got our instruction manual. Read through that to familiarize yourself with it. Your basic tools. You got your T-wrench, a small Phillips. This is the battery pack that I told you about that comes stuffed into the front. It's a 7.4 volt, 380 milliamp 2S LiPo pack. There is your USB charger, and there is the FMS transmitter, which I really like these little transmitter. There is your channel 4 button and your channel 3 button, which is the 2-speed, and I hope I got that right. If not, I'll let you know while we're out driving it. But check out the trim functions up top there, and decent little radio system for this rig. All right, so here is the Kubelwagen once more in its clean and pristine condition, and it's time to go outside and get these tires dirty. I can't wait to see how this thing looks on the trail. So before we get into the performance wrap up, I just wanted to circle back around to the features, and I missed a major one. The transmission is actually selectable as well from all-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive, which is really impressive what they stuffed into that tiny little transmission. I also wanted to mention that there's 30 ball bearings throughout the driveline. I did read up on that, and this little piece on the hood that I wasn't sure of, that's an anti-aircraft light. It actually has a dim LED light under there. So really cool stuff going on. Now it's time to talk about how it drove, and I took it out to a park, and this is really a drivable model. It is not your high performance rock crawler or off-road machine. It definitely looks really cool out there. It is a lot of fun to create video with. I think if you're into this era of military type vehicles, you're definitely going to be drawn into it. But when you're driving, you really need to select the right terrain for this. And that type of terrain is just some rolling dirt hills, maybe some mossy park ground like where I found. But if you're going to take this to a area with lots of rocks and jagged obstacles to go over, it is just not going to go well for you. Out there, I really just enjoyed getting down on the ground, setting up the camera, and slowly maneuvering this thing. Mostly I was using the low transmission setting on here because with that I had plenty of torque, but there was some times where I would have to switch it over to high, and I wanted to, let's say, get over a little rock ledge or something like that, and if you come up to it and you're in high gear, the motor just kind of stalls out. Maybe it's the speed controller. It just does not have the capability to get this thing over. It really needs a head of steam behind it when you are using high gear if you want to get over something. Or, you know, if you're just driving around on flat ground, the high gear is a lot of fun. But, you know, for this, I wanted to do a lot of slow crawling with it, and the low gear setting worked out really well. Never really ran it in rear-wheel drive when I was out driving it around. It's a little bit of an odd function to it. Actually, I had to figure out how it works because it says it's channel 4, so I would press channel 4 and that operates the LED lights on here. So it could switch between all the different LED light functions, which is really cool, but it wasn't selecting rear wheel drive until I finally, for some reason, held it down and it shifted. You could actually hear the servo shift, and that's when it goes in rear wheel drive. And then when you pull on the throttle, you'll actually notice the rear kind of buck up, I think with that gear reduction in there. You know, if it's in high, it kind of just throws the rear up and bounces and jitters a little bit and then takes off, which it can be fun in some respects. But I really found it to be a challenge over there in the park, trying to crawl up stuff. And the steering, it stalls out as well if you hang up the front in some rocks or something. And then with the belly pan as well, it does often high side. So you're really gonna wanna try to find, you know, maybe a packed sand, some packed dirt, really low gravel type of terrain to drive this thing on, and that's where you're going to enjoy the drive on this. But beyond that, I mean, it does look killer out there. I'm again not a military person, but I do respect the ingenuity and engineering that went into these things, and I absolutely love what ROCHobby has done here in their recreation. So it's really drawn me in as a hobby enthusiast. So overall, it's an impressive RC vehicle in terms of just looking incredibly scale. Performance, it's okay. I'm not gonna be driving this thing an awful lot. I'll probably just be staring at it a lot more, driving around indoors, and that's where I'll have the most fun with it. Let me know what you think about it. Are you into this style of vehicle? Do you wanna see more of them? Let us know in the comments section below. If you do get one, where would you drive it? Or you just gotta go and display it. It's a fun rig. I will have links to everything down in the description below. If you wanna pick these up in your country, actually, I've got a bunch of links for you. And while you're down there, hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell, throw the video a like, and we'll see you back soon for some more RC Driver videos.